Bailey. Hurry. I can go no further.
Get on your knees.
Be without fear in the face of your enemies. Be brave and upright that God may love thee. Speak the truth, always, even if it leads to your death. Safeguard the helpless and do no wrong. That is your oath. And that's so you remember it.
Arise, the knight and Baron of Ibelin.
Defend the king. If the king is no more, protect the people.
It is time now, my lord, to confess to holy God, not your son. Are you sorry for all your sins?
For all but one.
Están sentencione in sua piesima misericordia, et in verdi dominus gratiam spiritus sancti.
I'm going to go back into Russell's story now and see, not exactly the same, but pretty darn close. He didn't have a good relationship with his dad. Little Russell, at 8 years old, is kind of an awkward kid. He's a little bit overweight. He's not good with tools or athletics. And that's what his dad values. His dad's a man's man. He's a strong guy. He's great with tools, blue-collar guy, making his way in the world, bought his own home. But the problem is, he and Russell, there's tension. He wants to work on the car, and Russell's always losing the nuts and bolts and screws. Anyway, here's what happens. 8th birthday, little Russell gets in a fight at school. And actually, good for him, he was trying to kind of stand up against some bullies who were picking on a dog. Right? But the principal comes, and he doesn't know what the story is. He just sees a scuffle, and so he sends the boys home. What little Russell doesn't know is that his mom is terminal with cancer. She's dying. She's not supposed to leave the house. She's on bed rest. She comes down, picks him up, mercy, love, like a mother, brings him home, and then his dad comes home. And his dad, raging, turns on Russell. And this is where the wound comes.
You're out of your mind.
Fine. I'm fine.
You stay there.
Please don't scare him. He's had a hard day.
Why? The doctor said you weren't to leave the house. What is the matter with you?
I'm sorry.
How can you do this to your mother? What are you trying to do? Kill her faster?
What?
We're gonna lose her. You pull some stunt like you did today. You're killing her.
I found the screw, Dad. Look, the screw.
Stop crying.
Here's the screw, Dad. Look, here it is. Here it is. I found it.
Stop
Please,
crying.
Daddy, look at the screw. Here it is.
Stop crying. Stop. grow up. Grow up!
Mom's dying.
I know.
Soon?
Yeah.
For your next birthday.
Did I do it?
No. No, you didn't do it. It's not your fault. Dad was just saying those things because he's scared. Because he knows that he has to raise you alone. He doesn't know how to do it.
I thought you never cried.
Not since my 8th birthday. Guess I'm starting up again.
Come.
Because I just figured out where I got that twitch from.
Somebody called the ambulance.
Yeah. Gonna need him now, huh? Come on. I'm gonna get out of here. Let's go. Let's go get something to eat.
Okay, but I'm eating whatever I want.
Right. Not since my 8th birthday. Brutal. Devastating. You meet Russell Duritz early in the movie and you think the guy's just a jerk. And then you hear his story and you go, oh, now I understand. There's always a story. There is always a story. Longfellow said, we may meet a man and think him cold when he is merely sad. You see, beneath every posing man is a wounded boy. I'll guarantee it. You were born into a world at war. This is a brutal world on the human heart. And you do not live in anything like Eden. When you understand the power of the father-son relationship, you can begin to appreciate that some of the deepest wounds that we experience come from the father. Remember back in the larger story, I was describing how that relationship between the Father and the Son, that's actually the core of the universe because of the Father and the Son, Jesus Christ. That's the most intimate, fundamental, primary relationship in this world, in the entire world. And then that echoes into human experience, okay? When God gives us, Father, right? The father-son relationship here in this world. And to understand the power of this, you need to understand two things that a boy needs. Every boy needs. Every boy needs to know that his father adores him. He just needs to know, I love you. And it's communicated in 1,000 ways. I love to spend time with you. I love to hear your thoughts, right? I love to, snuggle with you at night and read you stories and tickle and wrestle. I love to pick you up from school and go out for special breakfasts on Saturdays. All that stuff. I adore you. I adore you. And the second thing a boy learns from his father is the answer to his question. That core question of masculinity. Do I have what it takes? The design is that the father would answer that question, right? Not just once, but in 1,000 ways over the progression of a young boy's life into young manhood. I see you. You're amazing. The way you handled that was phenomenal, son. Way to go. Whoa, you're the man, right? You are so powerful. A report that you wrote, right? Or something you did in sports, or the way you handled scouts, or just bravery, riding your bike. Attaboy, Tiger, you can do it. Attaboy. Okay, you see, the delight of the Father and the answer to the question. This is exactly what you see in the baptism of Jesus. Okay? When John baptizes Jesus in the Jordan, And Jesus comes up out of the water. God speaks. He can't help himself. It's like he's breaking protocol. God rarely does this in the Bible. Speaks in an external way. He speaks often within us, but in an external way, right? Remember what he says? Jesus. Jesus. You're amazing. This is my beloved Son. I adore you. And you have what it takes, right? I'm so pleased with you. I love your life. I love who you are. I love your character, your gifting, right? Do you see that? Even Jesus needed this. Whoa, whoa. If Jesus Christ needed to hear this from his Father, can you imagine how much more we did? We still do need to hear this. And it's a double-edged sword. You see, God gives to this relationship the power to bless. And in that power to bless comes the power to cripple and to wound as well. And sometimes the wounds simply come through silence, and those are the hard ones to name. Through a passive father, a disengaged father, maybe a really nice guy, right? Maybe a very spiritual man, but he's not really there. He's checked out, taken out, lost heart himself, posing, faking it, no engagement, none of that initiation that a boy needs, adoring and teaching and training and validation. Validation, validation. You are the man, right? Or then you have the violent wounds, the angry dads, the alcoholic dads, the sexually abusive dads, right? The raging fathers who can wound brutally. It's a double-edged sword. The power to bless is also the power to take a boy out. And most men were taken out in their youth. The lingering impact of those wounds requires something powerful to deal with it. Oh, what an understatement. What an understatement. What did I become? Jerry Maguire, the guys in City Slickers, the guys in Good Will Hunting, Russell Duritz. What did I become? What have I become? There's always a story to it. If we could just listen for 20 minutes to the stories of the men in this room, if you just pick guys randomly, you couldn't take more than 20 minutes of it. It would absolutely break your heart. This is a brutal world. And even if your dad was a great guy, and thank God for it, the wounds come, maybe through a coach, like in Morgan's situation, and in sports, or maybe through a teacher that you wanted so desperately to have, mentor you, and he ends up wounding you, or through an older brother, right, or mother wounds. The wounds come. Beneath every posing man is a wounded boy. In Psalm 109, David says, "Be merciful to me, O God." Now this is David, by the way, okay? Killed Goliath when he was like 15, 16 years old. Mighty, mighty warrior for Israel. Ends up becoming king. That mighty man, listen to how he describes his internal world. "Be merciful to me, O God, for I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me." And scriptures teach the wounded heart. The wounded heart. In fact, Psalm 147 says that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, or to those crushed in spirit, and he binds up their wounds. And then, of course, the promise of Jesus when he talks about coming to heal the brokenhearted. I don't want to give a wrong impression here. It's not just one wound. You have taken many wounds in this battle. But the most defining wounds tend to happen when we're younger, because when you're young, you have no way to understand it, deal with it, interpret it, right? It might come from a brother who beats you up. It might be a mother who's not merciful, right? Usually the strongest wounds come from the father, because he's the most powerful figure in a boy's life. And yet you may be more aware of more current wounds, right? A divorce is a wound. An affair is a wound. The betrayal of a friend is a wound. A church that turns on you, right? Kicks their pastor out. That's wounding. That's deeply wounding, right? Just loneliness is a wound. No one ever asking how you're doing is wounding. Some come obviously through crisis, illness, suffering, affliction, loss of a job, the loss of a dream. Right? Some of them come much more quietly, but the wounds come, my friend. The wounds come. And they seem to have a pattern to them in your life. As you begin to reflect on this, you'll notice there's almost a theme. So my dad gets taken out, and the next thing I do is I give my heart to my first girlfriend. When I met her, I just thought she was the fountain of life. She had an intact family. She was bubbly and funny and pretty. She thought I was amazing, so I'm looking to her to answer my question. Right? And then one day, she just broke up with me. No reason, no explanation. She's just gone. Abandonment again. Right? This rejection thing again. And then my grandfather was the rescue of my life. During the years of my father's alcoholism, my parents would send me to spend my summers on my grandfather's ranch in eastern Oregon, near Ontario. And those were awesome days. Those were my initiation. Riding horses, driving tractors, and my grandfather was a great guy. And he adored me. And so I did feel the belovedness, again, that I had when I was very young. I could feel it in my teenage years with my grandfather. And he taught me a lot. There was validation with him. And then he got brain cancer. 6 months later, he's dead. I couldn't even bring myself to go to the funeral. It was so devastating. I'm like, you're got to be kidding me. The third person in my life now? Again? Gone? Just these wounds come, and they seem to carry the same message with them. And it's the message particular to your story. Mine, you're on your own. You're on your own. Don't ever trust anyone. Right? You got to figure this life out on your own. Don't ever need anyone. The important thing to begin to realize, my friends, is that it mattered. Is that the wounds shape us. The wounding shapes us. And oh my gosh, our drivenness or our passivity, right? Our anger or the fact that we're always the jokester. I mean, the wounds shape us. The fact that we have got to succeed or that we desperately need people's approval. Right? The rage that's within us. It doesn't matter. The wounds shape us. It mattered. It affected you. And all of our addictions, whether it's the need for sex or the need for attention or the need for success or the need to be, in charge all the time, money, all of it, drugs, alcohol, all of that. It's not about the addictions. The addictions are never the issue. This is really good news, by the way. They're never the issue. The issue is you are medicating a wound. Right? There is a wounded heart in there, and you are doing everything you can to try and numb it. Now, men numb it with busyness. They numb it with spirituality. Right? You can be a Christian, busy, driven, angry guy. Right? A perfectionist. Right? You can be a Christian, checked out, passive, shut down guy. Down in there is the wounded heart. And then all our addictions are just adding to the mess. Right? Men who struggle with same-sex attraction actually are more clear on what it is their soul is crying out for. It is the love of a father. It is masculine attention. It's just that it's become sexualized, and that can often happen in our youth as well. But again, the addiction's not the issue. The wound is the issue, and the way we're trying to medicate it, or shut it down, or just get past it. And you guys, we are famous at mishandling this. You ask men about their wound. You try and listen to their story. Most guys deny it, minimize it. No, yeah, well, sure, things were kind of rough growing up. It was years ago. I'm kind of past that now. Really? Really? Or guys will admit, it was pretty abusive in my home, but I really don't think it shaped me. I really think I kind of was able to put that behind me. We either deny it or we minimize it. We minimize the impact. Guys say, hey, look, I've heard other guys' story. I didn't have it half as brutal as that, I had an okay growing up years, and so you minimize your experience because of the trauma of someone else's story. Or what men do is they embrace it. If they don't just try and, dismiss it, what men do is embrace it and go, no, that's my identity. right? I am the seagull. I am the idiot. I am alone. I am on my own. We embrace it as our identity. I'm not a man. I'll never be loved, right? I can never succeed. I can never take a risk or come through. Right? It ends up becoming our identity, or some odd mix of the two. Addictions and numbing, and then living out of this script that somebody else handed us. But the point is that will never heal it. That will never heal it. Shame, hatred, self-contempt, self-loathing, that will never heal it. And so God has to sneak up on us. He has to sneak up on us. And often he'll do it, as Craig said, through the dismantling of the false self. Right? You construct a world to try and save yourself. The most merciful thing God can do is bring it down. Bring it down. Because the worst thing is when your sin works for you. The worst thing is when your poser works and it gets you what you're looking for. Because you'll just live like that for the rest of your life. God will come through some disruption. It might be a divorce. It might be your 18-year-old daughter turning up pregnant, or the fact that your son doesn't want to be with you. It might be internal crisis. You might just be watching a movie and suddenly you find yourself weeping and you have no idea why. Just emotions from a song on the radio or simply a smell from your childhood. I can walk into a tack room and smell that, and I am back at my grandfather's ranch and I am 12 years old and I could weep for the loneliness of it. God will come in through any door he can find to get to your shut down heart, your buried, calloused, wounded heart. He'll do whatever it takes. He will even allow you to be wounded again in the place of your deepest wound, if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes. Remember how many times Peter denied Jesus? 3 times, right? Later on the beach, after the resurrection, how many times does Jesus ask him, "Do you love me?" What do you think that's about, fellas? You think that's just a curious question? He is driving at an incredible, shameful event in Peter's life, the self-loathing. Peter will never be restored until Jesus gets to this. So 3 times he pushes back into it. It's love. He is tenacious. He will go after you in whatever it takes. Inside every posing man is a wounded boy. Do you know what yours is? Can you name it? Can you name the way your heart was wounded? And can you name the message of the wound? Right? Because it's delivered with pain, it feels true. Because it comes with pain, we just believe it and adopt it as our life verse. Okay? What was your dad's message to you? If you think about those 2 things, if you think about little boy needs adoration and love and blessing. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, my sons are 22, 20, and 17, and they will come running in the room when I'm reading, and they will leap across the room and land in my lap. They love to snuggle with me still. They know they're welcome, right? They love my embrace. Lying in a tent for 6 nights with Blaine, just laying there laughing, cracking up, telling stories, farting, you know. I mean, just, they want nearness with me. You will never outgrow this. The yearning for the Father's love. Did you get that? Just think about these 2 things that a boy wants, the belovedness, the adoration, the delight. Did you get that? And then the validation through word and experience. It's the Father's role to take a boy through a series of processes with tools or sports or learning to write a report or do research or handle a girl, make that phone call for that first job. The dad's supposed to be there to help him learn. And as he's learning, say, well done. You see? You got what it takes. You can handle life. You are the man. Both those things. What was your dad's message to you? How was your heart handled in this world? I want to give you a few moments to reflect on that right here before we move into another film clip. But just to give you some time to reflect on that. Just if you brought something to write with, write that out. Just name that. How was your heart wounded? What was the message? What was your dad's way with you?